Reclaimed, a podcast that dares to ask the question, is there a better way to live this chapter of our lives? A few years ago now, early in my midlife chapter, I experienced a life-changing burnout. A burnout that made me question my career as a psychologist, my relationships, but also the culture in which I live in, which celebrated or seemed to celebrate this busy hustle culture. So this catapulted me into a midlife course correction. And something that I continue to be on a journey on in terms of reclaiming and creating my midlife. And I'd love you to join in with me. Here we'll question the life-draining systems that exist in our society, and we will open up to our vulnerability with open hearts to find real lasting change. I will open up and share some of my vulnerability, as well as guests who choose to do the same, but also share practical wisdom from my profession, but also from other professions to help guide you with the wisdom needed to explore this chapter of your life and create it the way that you need to. I believe midlife is an opportunity to look in, to discover what is truly satisfying, fulfilling for you, and making those changes along the way. So if you're ready to call out what's broken, connect to your vulnerability like it's a superpower, and reclaim what is truly authentic for you, then you're in the right place. This is Midlife Reclaimed. Let's challenge the status quo, shape a better future for this chapter in our lives, one brave, courageous step at a time. Engaging in this podcast does not intend to create, nor does it create, a therapist and client relationship between you and myself. All the wisdom shared by myself or the guests is general in nature and not intended for your personal circumstances. As I have done for myself, I encourage those who are in distress to seek professional support. If you are in a life-threatening situation, please call your national emergency services. And if you're in need of urgent counselling, please contact any available national telephone services in your nation, or see your doctor as soon as possible. Stay safe, and please remember that you do not need to do this alone. Hi, welcome back, or welcome to, if it's your first time here, to Midlife Reclaimed. I am Shannon Swales, and in today's solo episode, I am going to go on and bring you with me on a personal reflective journey on my relationship with this little thing, mobile phone. There is a lot of good evidence out there that these things can be quite unhealthy for us at times if we haven't got some really great practices, some really great relationships with this phone. So I'm going to take you through a journey today to explore that with me, but hopefully go away, and I'm hoping I go away with a bit of a plan to improve my relationship with this thing, because it is starting to have, well, not starting, it is having a negative impact on my health and well-being, my stress levels, and my ability to sleep. But I won't get too far ahead of me. That's where we're going to go today. So join in with me, grab your journals if you'd like, or just a piece of paper to write your reflections down. Let's get started. So let's first look into the research insights of the overuse of mobile phones and burnout. Now, there's been a lot of studies over the last several years looking into this. And one of the things I want to highlight first is the impact it's had on sleep. So particularly the use of mobile phones in that lead up to going to sleep, that it has been linked to certainly disruptions in sleep in terms of the duration, but also the quality of sleep as well. And we do know that without that restorative sleep, because there's a lot going on in our bodies that is quite restorative overnight, that we are then more vulnerable to stress and then, of course, burnout if our sleep patterns continue to be disrupted in that way. I recently had a guest on the podcast, Wendy, who's a naturopath, and she spoke to sleep is like our grease and oil change, that we have for our cars. It's essential. So if it's being disrupted by something like this, so that quality and duration, that we're not getting that restoration that our body needs to be able to handle stress and to prevent that burnout. Okay. The next thing in terms of what the research has shown is around the cognitive overload, so that mental load and constant interruptions. So those frequent notifications and that habit of constantly checking our phone, our notifications can split our attention. And this cognitive overload may make it harder for us to be able to focus, to attend, and it drains that mental energy that we need for life. So another area is the erosion of work-life balance. So our forever on digital culture that we have today, there's really not much space given to just simply be, to not be on and to have that deep relaxation that our very human bodies need. So, whether it's that scrolling through social media and not really connecting with ourselves or others, or we're constantly at work, even if we're home, with checking the emails. So yeah, not so great there either. So this next one is true to me, behavioral dependence. That there's a growing body of evidence that our use, our excessive phone use, is linked to what is happening in the bodies of people that are addicted to substances like alcohol or prescription drugs or whatever it might be. That these devices can be addictive as well, which increases our anxiety and stress, making us more susceptible to burnout in that area as well. And the last thing I want to share is some really rich research coming from Nick Petrie and his team on the importance of having a really solid phone strategy to help prevent, but also recover and prevent further burnout from happening. So things like, structured times and schedules around phone use, and also things like, taking away notifications or taking the work stuff off the phone if it's not a work phone. So yeah, there's some really great solid stuff that's come out of his research around what you could do. So that's, so the research is pretty damning that, we need to pay attention to this relationship with the phone. And I like to call it a relationship because and I often do this with my clients as well, that, at the moment, the relationship is not really great, but I can repair it with a little bit of help, from this research and from people who've come before me to be able to help myself, but also help you as well in regaining a solid, healthy relationship with your phone. Hey, midlife women, just a small interruption of this episode to let you know about a vital resource that I have created called the Midlife Reclaimed membership. This is not just another resource hub, but it's a compassionate community that I have built exclusively for midlife women who are burnt out and ready to break free and embrace a renewed sense of purpose. Imagine a safe space where you can connect with like-minded women, share your journey, and access practical tools and knowledge to help you grow and thrive. In our community, I personally lead monthly masterclasses and QA sessions, sharing guided practices, a rich library of resources, and effective strategies to help you work with your energy, replenish it, set healthy boundaries, and create a life that truly is aligned with your needs. As I often remind myself, burnout can be our biggest teacher if we pause long enough to listen, to hear her wisdom, and to learn and grow from those who can support us to move in the direction that will help us reclaim our midlife. And here's the best part. If you join before the 31st of March 2025, you'll enjoy fantastic membership pricing. So if you're ready to break that isolation and the stigma of burnout and start nurturing your growth in a supportive community, please visit www.burnoutspsychologysupport.com/midlife reclaimed membership to learn more and to join our supportive community. Let's reclaim our midlife together. So let's dive into this reflective list of questions I have to help us get there. So yeah, come with me, grab your pieces of paper, your journal, and let's reflect and hopefully transform this phone habit. I need this help personally. And I haven't done these questions, by the way, on myself yet. I'm doing this with you now. And let's start by recognizing the habit. Like any relationship, we need to take stock of where it's at right now. Rather than leaping into the solutions, we need to just step back and go, okay, what's up? So what specific situations or emotions prompt you or me to reach for our phones, even when we know it might not be necessary? Okay. So yeah, feel free to reflect on it. I'm going to share with you what comes up for me. For me, it's often boredom. Like I've got nothing else to do. And I'm someone, as people probably have found, I'm a bit fidgety. I like to move my hands. So I'm not very good at, well, it's not that I'm not very good. My body just likes to move. So, letting my hands remain still is a little bit hard. So it's sort of it's a boredom, but it's also a needing something to do with my hands. But that I also noticed that I think it's a little bit of what that research I was sharing with you earlier, like it's a bit of an addictive habit now. Like when I go onto my phone, I'm actually looking at my emails, I'm scrolling through my social media, seeing if there's any notifications. It's a bit of a anticipatory, and if I get that ding sort of reward, because it's like, oh, someone has commented on my post, or someone has emailed their interest in a program I've got up to offer. So it's sort of searching for this hit of dopamine, and I'm quite sure that's the right neurochemical that is that rewarding one. So I feel like for me at the moment, my phone use is me feeding that addiction. Honestly, I think that's the predominant one. I think it started off with boredom and needing something to do with my hands, and probably also a bit of a need for connection, less so now. Yeah, now it's more of that dopamine hit, I think. And looking back in the past, I think my phone use has also been, and this might be for you, it was not consciously chosen, but more unconsciously, just to avoid any discomfort, whether it was my anxious thoughts about work, or worry or stress about finances or something going on in my relationship. I think, well, I know in the past, it was an avoidance strategy, that I just didn't want to face that stuff and I wanted to shut my mind up. It didn't work, or worked for a little bit. But yeah, that was a past. And that might be helpful for you to go, oh, what is it currently? But like, what has it been in the past? Like, has it been an avoidant thing for me? Am I unconsciously suppressing, not dealing with something? Is it that addictive? Like, I'm just wanting to get that hit. Am I feeling maybe a bit disconnected, socially isolated, so trying to get that connection? Is it boredom? Am I someone who needs to, movement? So yeah, and I'm sure there's a load of other things that that are coming up for you. But yeah, let's move on to the next question, and feel free to hit pause if you need to just take a moment and reflect on that. Assessing impact. So in what ways have this excessive phone use affected my life? So it could be our sleep, our focus and attention, like we were talking about that research has found, or just that overall well-being, like your stress levels, your anxiety levels, maybe even your mood. And can you recall any moments when you felt those negative effects most acutely? I've been feeling it more lately. I've been very mindful, very curious and open, and exploring what's going on, because I've just noticed that My sleep, definitely, because I tend to use it a lot prior to sleep, but also during the day as well, because I'm reminded about, good sleep is also about what we do during the day. But I've got my phone on it and scrolling through at night as well. So I'm really noticing the impact on my sleep. And because I'm checking work things, although that doesn't trigger my anxiety, it does keep me on. And so my dreams are active. I'm waking up active, already thinking about work. And that's certainly um, when I burnt out, that was something that was going on a lot. The thoughts were a lot more anxiety, fear driven. They're not now, but they're still like my body is always on. So it's not great in terms of stress and recovery. So yeah, definitely sleep for me. I'm also noticing my attention span is absolute shit compared to what it was before. And that can be a combination of things, but I think certainly my use of the phone, getting those quick hits, with checking my emails, um, yeah, I think, and needing that hit, like I find it really hard to sit down and read a whole chapter of a book or watch through a 30-minute show because I'm like, oh, I've got to go, check that phone again. So I'm really noticing those behaviors, which really symbolize that my system's totally on. And although I haven't really seen a significant impact on my well-being in terms of feeling really stressed or anxious or even down, or changes in my social behavior, um, or stopping those other things that are really healthy for me, like going to the gym, going out with friends. I'm able to, when I'm doing things, I'm able to connect. I can put my phone or leave my phone away, but it's when I'm by myself. Yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm at with mine. You might notice other things like, oh, that's one I forgot. I'm also getting really mad and angry because some of the stuff that's coming up in my stream or whatever you call it is just some of the stuff going on in the world and some of the just opinions and things like that. And clickbait stuff, and it just gets me angry. And I'm like, and what for? Like, none of it's helpful, none of it's useful. And engaging in any arguments over social media, even, it's just pointless. So yeah, I'm like, what am I doing this for? This does not make sense. Like, I mean, it does make sense, the addictive thing, but like this content, I mean, yeah, give me a fluffy, puppy, seeing that and having a laugh. And my partner and I swap, reels sometimes that make us laugh. So that is very value driven and I like that. But the rest of it, it's just like, oh, no. So yeah, it does affect my mood a bit or just affect my, experience of the world. So, so yeah, take a moment to, how does your phone, impact you or your use of your phone, I should say, impact you? Because it's not the phone itself, but it's our relationship with it, right? Yes. Let's move on to the next step. One of the things I wanted to do in this reflective exercise too was to bring an approach called acceptance commitment therapy, which is a therapeutic approach that I use on myself, but others. I mean, this isn't therapy, but just using those elements to help explore this relationship and also help you move out of it as well. So this is where ACT starts to come in. So we're going to bring a mindful awareness. So part of ACT is being present on purpose and curious. So hopefully we've already been curious with those first two questions and letting go of that judgment. But let's infuse that in this question. So when I feel the urge to check my phone, what thoughts or physical sensations arise? And how can I observe these experiences without judgment? So some of you may not be at that point of awareness of what you feel or think when you're, that urge to pick up your phone. Maybe it's just so automatic. You all of a sudden you're there and you're, surfing the net or checking your emails or answering a phone call, just automatic behavior. And that's okay. We are designed to do things we do constantly, automatically, without any thought, but we can slow it down and notice. And it's really important because that brings up some information like, oh, I'm feeling bored, or I'm having the thought that I want to check my emails, or I'm noticing that, oh, I don't feel good and I want to feel good. And that's why I'm picking up the phone. So slowing down and paying that mindful attention, being curious, letting go of any judgment, like I shouldn't pick up my phone. I shouldn't be, checking my phone in front of my kids, or whatever the judgment thought might be. Just letting that be. We're going to have those thoughts, but really just be curious about what physical sensations, what thoughts, what feelings come up for me. I think I'm a little bit disconnected from my experience with this, but if, just reflecting on recent, there's a buzz in my body, like a need to move. I think sometimes, like I'm bored. I want to movement, like to get up and move. So I think there's that. There's, I think, a difficulty just to sit with not doing anything as well, maybe just like I've got to fill this spot. I can't just be relaxed, maybe. Like maybe my body's like, oh, we're used to being on, so why are we off? Like, even though I know up here in my mind, I know I don't feel or think any guilt, or feel any guilt or have any thoughts of it being wrong to relax. But I think my body's maybe, like, once it starts to slow down and it's sort of coming off that hit, yeah, maybe it's that, oh, I'm needing it. So I might be watching a show, or I might be just sitting out on the deck enjoying the sunshine or whatever, and hanging with my dogs. But if my phone is with me, which often it is, I just pick it up. So yeah, if it's hard to sort of reflect back on a recent, just next time you're noticing, see if you can leave the phone there and just check in. Which this next reflective question might help us with this. So in ACT, we talk about acceptance, and it's the concept of being able to be open to experiences when it's in pursuit of something, an action that we really want to do, like not pick up our phones, for example. So in this space, they talk about acceptance of urges. So instead of fighting that impulse to pick up the phone, like we might be going, I really shouldn't, I should be spending my time elsewhere, that kind of fight. Or, if we haven't automatically picked up, or as soon as we've recognized that, getting into that judgmental mind and sort of being pushed around, instead of fighting the fact or fighting the impulse to pick up the phone, instead to be present with the urge, to notice openly with curiosity that experience of that urge in your body. What does it feel like? Being able to simply notice without being able to get caught up or push it around. There's actually a lot of practices. There's one called urge surfing, which is you can do it yourself, which is pretty much what I explained before, or a guided practice, to help you be able to be with. Because the interesting thing about, if we dropped that struggle, that mental struggle with it, and just brought the acceptance to the urge, it will pass, and it does pass, and it's more likely to pass when we don't bring that really fight, threat, stress response to it. So maybe it might be helpful if I guide you through a bit of an urge surfing experience, and rather than, because it's hard when it's reflective, sort of thinking back to the last time you used the phone, but just basically I will do this acceptance of urges, just more to acceptance of whatever's showing up in your body. But the same thing, because the urge is a physical sensation, experience, that you'll do it with that afterwards. So come with me. But please note too, if you Googled urge surfing, you will find some guided practices to help you with that. But let's just do one together. So close your eyes or fix your eyes on a spot in front of you, whichever you prefer. This just helps us be able to, let go of the outside environmental world and come in and tune into ourselves. And let's just first start with a few breaths, but just attending to the breath, letting go of any thoughts or feelings about the breath or anything else. Just seeing if you can bring your attention to that breath in this moment that is there, breathing on its own without need to intervene, but just allowing that breath to help you come to the present by bringing your attention to it. Again, letting go of any thoughts or feelings about the breath, about the exercise, about anything else. But also know if you get caught up in your thinking brain, that as soon as you notice you're lost in your thoughts, bring yourself gently back to the breath. Next, I invite you to observe with curiosity something that's showing up in your body right now, and something that you find mildly uncomfortable. Maybe it's tension in your shoulders. Maybe it's your heart pumping, maybe a little bit faster. Whatever the sensation is, I want you to see if you can simply note, maybe gently saying to yourself, here is my heart pumping, or here is the sensation of tension. We're simply noting what already exists, letting go of any thoughts or desires to get rid of, but simply being with, not because we like it or we want it, but because it is here and we have a choice on how to be with, to struggle, or to allow it to pass in its own time. And see if you can learn as much about it as possible. Like, where is it in your body? Is it a hard tension or soft, or is there a rhythm to it? If it had a shape, what shape would it be? Just learning curiously more about this experience. Not necessarily what you think about it, but what you're feeling. What are the sensations? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And again, just silently noticing. And then last but not least, I invite you to use your breath, not as a way to fix or get rid of this urge, but to help you make space for it while it's here. And if it's still here, I invite you to take a breath in and allow that breath to flow into and around the area of that sensation you're sitting with right now, that you're bringing acceptance to, that you're acknowledging, that you're allowing, and now you're accommodating through the breath. And then coming back to your breath, letting go of the acceptance of this sensation, and just allowing your breath your attention on your breath to act as a transition from this urge surfing to back to your space. Okay. So there's a little experience there of acceptance of urges. I hope that might bring this a bit to life for you. Now, it's not the most fun thing to do. It's one that's used quite readily with working with people struggling with addiction. I used to work in that area quite a bit, and urge surfing was one of the tools that we would practice and impart for people to deal with the urges to act on that desire for the drug, or whatever the substance or behavior was. So, the good news is that those urges will pass, like I mentioned. And with the phone, same thing. And that over time, they become less and less. So it's challenging to start with, but not so bad afterwards. So there's a beginning and an end, to every urge, and they will go away once we break that behavioral pattern, that the unhealthy relationship with our phones, and create a new one. You won't need this urge surfing technique, but it'll certainly be one that can bode you well with anything that you're finding uncomfortable, that gets worse if we struggle with it, but is better when we sit with it. Anyway, hopefully that's making sense and is useful for you. But and I feel like, did I answer those questions too? Instead of finding the impulse to pick up the phone, how might I let the urges be present without immediately acting on it? Simply notice the urge without being controlled by it. I think just one last note. I know I haven't really sat with it, so I think I will be using the urge surfing as a way to support me, because I've just been picking up the phone straight away. And just going, it's not that bad. It'll be fine. Okay. Now, the last bit of bringing that ACT approach in, so the mindful awareness, being present in a curious way, being open, being accepting of the discomfort that shows up. And the last little bit is in pursuit of connecting with our values around our relationship with our phone. So let's get into this. Which of my core values, like quality time with my loved ones, self-care, or deep work, are compromised by this habitual phone use that is no longer healthy for me? And how can these values guide me toward healthier choices? So, So values, for those who, like, from an ACT perspective, are what is rich and meaningful and fulfilling for us. So the idea is being connected to what that is and our actions aligned with it. And one of the big things for me is looking after myself and taking care actions. So my current relationship with my phone is certainly not aligned with it. And because it's starting to impact my sleep and therefore impacting my stress levels, it's also impacting my connections. I'm less tolerable, I'm a little bit more snappy. So in terms of my relationships, and my energy levels are down. So I'm not as able to, I notice with my exercise, I'm not able to lift as much or do as much because I'm tired. And I'm cranky, so that keeps my partner at a distance from me as well. So it's certainly not helping with my value of around being present in my relationships and connected. So but for you, it would be interesting what you notice it's taking you away from, that is fulfilling and meaningful and rich to you. There's certainly, on the flip side, certainly a lot of things that I find valuable and aligned with my values with my phone. Particularly, I think I shared earlier that my husband and I, share reels. So from our scanning, we share some funny things. But hey, we can do that in other ways as well, and I can still do that, but just with a better, not overdoing it, overusing. So Okay, which leads me into the next one, that setting boundaries and scheduling. So going back to Nick Petrie's and his team's research, that they've really found that this is really important. So the question here is, how can you or I establish clear boundaries for our mobile use? For example, can we designate phone free times, such as during meals or evenings, and commit to scheduled check-ins instead of constant scrolling? So some thoughts here. And this could be where you connect with, values might be a helpful guide here with setting these boundaries and scheduling. So let's say one of your values might be family time. It might be, okay, phones away during the evening meal, or it might be switching off the work phone, or the work, like I've got a dual SIM. So when my work hours, I have my work phone number on, and then otherwise it's off. And I don't anymore, but I had my work apps deleted as well, because I could use my laptop, which is solely for work pretty much, to check my emails, but they're back on. And one of the rules that we have as a family is that which my partner breaks, but is not taking our phones with us on our family walk. So, yeah, what boundaries and scheduling? This is where I'm going to need to do a lot of work. And I have kind of haphazardly tried, but I haven't been really vigilant on this. I think, well, I know. I feel like I need to have a designated place for the phone, that it kind of docks for the night. And I mean, because my phone is personal and work, I need to uh, be able to, I think, designate personal time use for it that's outside of that nighttime routine. I do feel like I need to, at least an hour before bed, no mobile phone use, nada. Uh, I also think that I need to schedule, at least like once the workday finishes, like an hour of mobile free time as well, just to help that segregation. And maybe the same, like in the morning, the first thing I do is wake up and check the phone. I think I need an hour before I even check it. So I'm thinking, this is my plan: wake up an hour afterwards. Okay, that's when I can use it, and then use it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be like use it for personal use. Check that for like personal use, half an hour, which I never really use it much for personal use, but let's say like personal use, and keeping to the work use within the work hours. That's going to be a bit tricky. But then once I finish work, turn off the work phone, which I'm always great with the phone. It's just the emails and stuff. Take an hour, and then check half an hour for personal use, and then hour before bed. So I think that's going to be mine. Yeah, just thinking that. Now that's all. I haven't had thought about that before. So I think the time schedule is going to be really important for me, and that urge surfing is going to be really important because I'm going to want to grab it. Now, the only other thing I'm thinking of is that I've got the charger in my bedroom and I charge overnight, but I think I should leave the charger in the office and put the phone to bed in the office, and that I have to go there in the morning, because I know it's, for me, something out of sight, it's a lot better than, so accessibility. I wish I could leave my phone at a workplace that's outside of my home, but that's the best that I can do. And also knowing that, like I mentioned earlier, like these new behavioral habits over time become easier. We just have to start the action to get into the habit, and soon that urge to want to do it will go away. So anyway, that's my plan: some boundaries, some scheduling. I'm going to have to write that down, but I'll be curious to find out what you might come up with, or what you're already doing that's very much around, those boundaries around your phone. And we do know relationships in general, right? whether it's our relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, boundaries are important. And even like, I know scheduling sounds a bit weird, but sometimes scheduling comes in it too. Like it's like, that we're not always available, 24/7. So scheduling, that may be different for parenting, of course, but certainly that we're not always available. So scheduling might come into it there with relationships as well. Okay, nearly there. Just a couple more questions to help sort of round out our reflection and our, bringing together a strategy to change our relationships into something more healthy and therefore not burn us out with our phones. So creating healthy alternatives. So I remember this in my addictions work as well. This was always important because the cigarette or the alcohol or whatever, we're providing certain things for them and certain human needs. So it's great to have some alternative healthier options to go to when those needs come up. So the question here is, what activities or routines can replace your automatic phone use when you're feeling stressed or bored? Or for me, it's that dopamine hit, or needing to move. How might these alternative reduce stress and boost your overall well-being? So something I found successful and helpful in the past, because I took 2 weeks off social media, was that I have it around here somewhere. I bought from Temu, and I'm not affiliated with them, but this is where this came from, and a Holly Brothers, but little, it's not, the brand isn't Lego, but it's like Lego, and just building those. But it gave me something to do with my hands, and I also put my mobile phone out. I don't think I left it in my office, but it was away from sight. But just having alternative activities, I also had a puzzle I was doing. So it gave my hands something to do while I was watching TV. So in case, I think with boredom, yeah, I think that movement through my body, it's really useful. And it also, for some, I don't know why, but I think it helped with that dopamine hit as well. I'm not quite sure, but like I didn't feel that need once I put that activity in place. And I also find sometimes, just getting up and moving, going and doing my exercise, doing a bit of yoga or going for a walk with the dogs, that can be really useful too. But I'm more likely to engage in a creative activity, drawing as well, but just making sure that those products, those things are accessible to me. Like even I've got a lot of fidget toys and things like that. So yeah, depending on your triggers, depending on what it is for you, uh, those alternative activities should fit that. So if it's boredom, I mean, sometimes we just need to sit with boredom, but so it might be urge surfing, but it might be fidget things if it's a movement, other things that might give you a dopamine hit. Exercise is really good there. Other things that help you feel good. It could be learning to sit with discomfort as well. If you've been avoiding certain emotions, learning how to be with and process and support emotions will be really important. So it really just depends, what those triggers are, to what those healthy alternatives might be to engage in there. Sometimes even sipping good old water. Well, that's not water, that's cordial infused water. But yeah, hopefully that gives some food for thought. And the last one is commitment and learning. So what small realistic steps can I commit to in the coming week to gradually reduce my phone use? So, or our phone use. Now, sometimes, like that schedule I've created, that may not be realistic, like maybe we've come up with a really great plan. It's like we're going to do X, Y, Z. But then when we really think about it on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 that I'm totally committed, I'm willing to do it. Yep, to 0, not at all. We're kind of sitting at maybe a 5 or a 4 out of 10. We want that to be more of a 7 or an 8. So we need to adjust our strategies for at least the first step to be realistic, to be around that 7 or 8, that we're going to commit to that. So it doesn't matter how small the step is. Like it could be that we're going to start with noticing more. Like if we're more in that automatic habit and really don't know what those triggers are or what that relationship is, that we start there to commit to slowing down and noticing mindfully what's going on in our bodies. We might be willing to, and I feel that I will start with waking up in the morning might be the hardest one, I think, and not the phone, but maybe starting with or starting with the afternoon one once I finish work, to not touch the phone for an hour, and then work towards the next, the morning and the night before bed. So that's just giving an example of go gradually. Success doesn't happen fast. It happens with setting really realistic goals. Because once the ball is rolling and we get that confidence in, oh, I've already changed that. I've started to change that relationship and starting to feel the benefits. We get that motivation for the next one. So basically, be realistic, take small, measurable steps, meaning that you can, I will know if I've done the hour, of after work. So that's what I mean by measurable. So hopefully that's making sense. And and if I slip back into old patterns, how can I view that as an opportunity to learn rather than a failure? This is really important whenever we're going through behavioral change, whether it be, changing our relationship with our phone, that slip-ups happen, setbacks happen. And rather than some of us, our mind will go, well, I've stuffed that up. I might as well, like when we give in, it's that all or nothing mindset. But again, trying to come back, be curious, what happened there? Try to let go of any judgment that this means I've failed or I'm a failure, and just more, okay, this has happened. We can bring acceptance to that. Acceptance isn't about saying it's okay. It's just more about this has happened. This is the reality. Acknowledge it, allow it. That means just don't struggle with it. Don't judge it. Just, okay, this has happened. And the accommodation part of that acceptance is more, okay, well, what can I learn from this? What is this telling me? Maybe the first step was just too huge. Maybe I need to step back a bit and make it smaller next time. Like for me, it might be, oh, maybe like if I started off with the morning one, I would have slipped up on that. But, so let's say I did that. It'd be like, oh, maybe I should start with one of the other steps first, something that feels a little bit more manageable. And maybe it might be changing the time frame. Maybe it's starting with half an hour and then moving that up. So yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot of what is doable. And that's why it's so important to treat slip-ups as learning experiences rather than failures, because we're more likely then to learn from it, be curious, be mindful, and take steps to change that plan and keep going, because we will get there. We will. But if we get stuck in that mindset of failure and, well, we stuffed that up, we weren't successful the first time or even the second time, so why bother? Keep going and reach out for support. Like, I know it might sound a little bit, I know my brain goes, oh, I need support for my relationship with my phone. But look, I know, addiction has been something that I've struggled with, not with, for me, it was food. I still have a bit of that. So, our bodies respond to and are physiologically wired when we feed it something that triggers that dopamine and that pleasure pathway. So we're going to go back to it. So sometimes we do need help by a peer or a friend. They could, maybe there's someone we check in with. Maybe we do this with them as a way to hold ourselves accountable. So yeah. Anyway, just my 2 cents worth. I do hope that has been useful in some way. I feel like I have a bit of movement now, and I feel with sharing with you today that a bit of accountability to stick to my phone. I might actually talk to my husband to share with him what my plans are, so he can check in with me and see how I'm going, or help me if I'm like he sees me grabbing the phone. So yeah. Support is always helpful. So, by understanding the research as we did to start off with today and, going through this reflective exercise together, I think the message here that it is paramount that we have a good, healthy relationship with our phones, because really in the end, if we're not getting sleep, our bodies are less likely and capable of dealing with stress and can certainly contribute to burnout. And we know burnout, if you listen to any of my prior episodes, have some really significant impacts on our life and on our health. Cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, loss of career, loss of relationships, and worse, loss of life. So it's serious. I know it might go, oh, phone strategy, but what it can lead to. So I hope these questions, these reflective questions have been, and the information have been useful for you to really take stock of your phone use. Feel free to share in the comments how you found this episode. You can, certainly let us know how you're going with your phone strategy. I will let you know how I'm going with mine in due course. But thank you so much for being with us, or being with me today and going through this together. Take care of you. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Midlife Reclaimed. I am Shannon Swales, and I hope the conversation today sparks some ideas, helps support you along your way in reclaiming your midlife. Now, if you'd like to stay connected, and we encourage you to do so, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and stay in contact with Midlife Reclaimed episodes. You can also follow us on social media under Shannon A. Swales. And also, if you want to dive deeper into this and be part of a community, check out our Midlife Reclaimed membership. The link is in the show notes. Now, before you go, please remember that if you're feeling overwhelmed, distressed, seek professional support. This podcast, whilst delivers valuable content, it is general in nature, is not a replacement for therapist-client relationships. So we, from the bottom of our heart, encourage you to seek that support. We're not meant to do this alone. Let's reclaim our midlife together, one courageous, bold step at a time. Take care of you. Bye for now.